This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
Marxism begins with the belief that there is no God.
The big concerns I have are the weather and air traffic control.
Oh, no complaints.
I think it's fantastic and remarkable.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
A fiscal fireworks show. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Mark Webster. We'll get to that story in a moment. But first, to fireworks in the form of lightning, thunder, wind, and hail hitting parts of the listing area this afternoon. Severe thunderstorm watches and warnings along the southern tier into the Finger Lakes and down into northeastern Pennsylvania. At least one storm near Binghamton brought 70-mile-an-hour winds and golf ball-sized hail this afternoon. NYSEG says a couple of thousand people in the southern tier are without power right now because of those storms. We'll get Kevin Williams' updated forecast for your area in just a few minutes. All right, now to a live civics lesson on the eve of America's birthday. That's what those watching the budget debate unfold in the House today got, including no shortage of rhetoric for and against what's been commonly called the One Big Beautiful Bill, which is now headed to President Trump's desk after narrowly passing a couple of hours ago. Act 1 belonged exclusively to Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries of New York, who did his best Mr. Smith Goes to Washington imitation during an 8-hour-long speech that continually criticized the bill.
It's all designed to put a happy smile on the face of billionaires. That is inconsistent with the Declaration of Independence and what we should be celebrating on July 4th.
Well, when Jeffries finally yielded the floor, House Speaker Mike Johnson, who's been working for days to muster enough votes to get the bill passed, took his turn.
Communism, socialism, find their root in Marxism. And Marxism begins with the belief that there is no God. It's wrong. And this Congress made us stand those many years ago, and we should do it again. We're different, we're distinct, we're exceptional, because we acknowledge that right there, our motto.
A 5 p.m. signing ceremony set for tomorrow as President Trump and Republicans take a 24-hour victory lap to savor their big win. Then they'll do what millions of Americans are already doing, taking a break for the Independence Day weekend. Many headed to airports. This woman flying from L.A. to D.C.
My son is in Inglewood High School band, and they're going to be in the Independence Day parade.
How exciting is that?
He's very excited.
Airline industry analyst Henry Hartevelt hopes it all holds together.
July 4th is the peak of the peak. The big concerns I have are the weather and air traffic control. Will the system hold up? If any one of those two things fail, the system could go kablooey.
Well, if you're driving, you're likely to find gas prices livable, if not likable. These drivers did.
I'm happy that it's getting down there. It used to cost me over $80 to top off, and now it's a little over $35, so I'm not complaining. I'm getting twice the trips, essentially, for the same price.
Oh, no complaints.
Well, add it all up, AAA is predicting over 72 million people will venture at least 50 miles from home over the Independence Day holiday period. They rate that as starting June 28th and going through July 6th. That's an additional 1.3 million road travelers compared to 2024. They also say nearly 6 million people will be flying to their destination. That's also a new record. A nice bit of economic news for America headed into the holiday. A new employment report showed better than expected job growth. Economist Archie Hall.
It reflects a job market that remains still pretty robust, pretty strong. And if I was Federal Reserve looking at this, I'd feel a bit vindicated in my decision to kind of hold off doing anything too dramatic and sort of stick to a wait-and-see approach.
Business analyst Jill Schlesinger says it means interest rates probably are going to stay put for now.
This report gives the Federal Reserve plenty of cover because with the job market remaining solid and inflation not yet showing any signs of tariff increases, the Fed can afford to wait and see how the data develop.
President Trump's been critical of the Fed for not acting to lower interest rates. The highest court in the land says it'll take on another case involving so-called transgender athletes.
The Supreme Court says it will take a look at lower court rulings in favor of trans athletes in Idaho and West Virginia. More than 24 states have passed laws barring trans women and girls from participating in certain sports competitions, and some of those laws have been blocked in court.
That's Fox's Tanya J. Powers. The FAA is investigating after 15 people were injured in the crash of a New Jersey skydiving plane. That Cessna went off the runway and crashed at Cross Keys Airport in Gloucester County, New Jersey yesterday. Andrew Halter is a hazmat officer.
Just the fact that we have 15 people that are still with us here today, some of minor injuries, I think is fantastic and remarkable. I think it's, again, a joint effort between probably the pilots initiative as well as all public safety providers that were out on scene.
3 of the injured are in critical condition. Alligator Alcatraz, it's up and running now. A Homeland Security bus and 2 vans were reportedly seen driving toward the migrant detention center in the Everglades today. Food trucks and other cars have entered the facility, which is expected to house around 3,000 detainees. Overnight, workers hung up an Alligator Alcatraz sign. And Chuck E. Cheese. Apparently it's not just for kids anymore. Here's Family Life's Bob Price.
Yeah, Mark, check this out. The pizza joint / arcade chain is opening a spin-off aimed for adults. It's called Chuck's Arcade, and it includes games geared for grown-ups. 10 are already open at shopping malls across the country. The CEO of Chuck E. Cheese says the spin-off is a natural evolution for the company following the remodel of some 500 stores. The expansion comes 5 years after Chuck E. Cheese filed for bankruptcy during the height of the COVID pandemic. Bob Price, Family Life News.
All right, thank you, Bob. Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, highlights from today's Faith Under Fire feature, looking back at some recent culture wars with Glenn Stanton from Focus on the Family.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast for tonight. An early shower thunderstorm in some parts of eastern Pennsylvania and east central New York, but that'll pass. And then for tonight, skies will end up clear and moonlit. Low temps comfortable, 50s and low 60s. For your 4th of July, plenty of sunshine, a delight, 70s to near 80. Heating up over the weekend with some sunshine both days, 80s Saturday, nearing just over 90 in spots on Sunday.
Very good, Kevin. Thank you. Again, severe thunderstorm watches and some warnings in place for this evening for the eastern southern tier of New York and a good portion of northeastern Pennsylvania as well. Some of those storms have generated golf ball size hail, wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour, so do be mindful of the skies if you happen to be in one of those watch areas. Up next, highlights from today's Faith Under Fire feature as our Sarah Harnish speaks with Focus on the Family's Glenn Stanton on some key recent U.S. Supreme Court rulings.
It's been a landmark year at the nation's highest court. The Supreme Court dropped a number of major rulings on religious freedom. It sided with South Carolina against Planned Parenthood Medicaid funding. It ruled Tennessee has the right to ban sex changes on minors. Texas can require age verification for pornography sites. And parents can make sure their kids opt out when they're going to get exposed to LGBTQ plus books in schools. The rulings are a huge victory, but the response after, not so much. With Planned Parenthood, people are concerned about having fewer options to abort their babies. On the Tennessee case, one liberal justice said the court was, quote, depriving adolescents of important treatment. What's going on?
These have been great decisions. I mean, we take our lumps from the Supreme Court oftentimes, but this has been a pretty good session in that there have been some really strong decisions that we here at Focus on the Family have really celebrated. The decision coming out of the South Carolina case, South Carolina does not have to pay Planned Parenthood Medicaid payments for abortions that they perform is a wonderful thing. And that Tennessee has a right to protect its own children from predatory transgender medicalization. And this is really wonderful. And just like you said, the way that the media is spinning these things. I just noticed this morning, on our TVs here at Focus on the Family, CNN has the story, the decision in Texas to whether pornographers online should have to prove that they're not pushing their material to minors. And CNN says that this is a freedom of speech issue over and against protecting minors. No, it's not a freedom of speech issue for pornographers to have to prove that they're not pushing stuff on minors. Just the way that they spin this stuff is just absolutely incredible.
There's a parody news group that we follow called the Babylon Bee, and we
follow it too.
I love them, and they had a little headline and a graphic they put out on social media. It says, President Trump bombed Iran. Here's how 12 news outlets covered the story, and it's a joke. But next to CNN, it says, Trump cruelly deprives poor Iranian children of nuclear weapons they've always dreamed of.
Right? And that's the best thing, is to make fun of this kind of foolishness, and it's a very effective tool.
As Christians, sometimes, though, we feel like we are on the opposing side of belief systems in this culture. We just had a story this last week. 600,000 gay and lesbian couples have been wed since gay marriage was legalized 10 years ago. Are we now the minority on life, marriage, and biological sex?
You know what? It's interesting, and I love the way you asked that question, because it can often feel like we are the minority on issues of marriage, life, and what does it mean to be male and female. But I tell you what, I am absolutely convinced that President Barack Obama back in the day used to say, we need to support same-sex marriage to be on the right side of history. I absolutely believe that we as Christians are absolutely on the right side of history, because all of these crazy ideas are going to prove themselves unworkable. 10 years of same-sex marriage. And you know what it did? It radically redefined what it means to be male and female, to the place where we have ridiculous people like Dylan Mulvaney parading themselves around on social media pretending to be a girl, not just a woman. This is like a 28-year-old guy pretending to be a girl. That's the ridiculousness that Obergefell, the Supreme Court decision that came down, wrought upon all of us. Obergefell gave us the deconstruction of what it means to be male and female, because if you effectively replace either mother or father in the family with a man's gay lover or a woman's lesbian partner, then male and female are just mere preferential. They mean nothing. And that is exactly what the Obergefell decision has given us.
What is the answer when you're called a bigot, a hater, transphobic, a person who cares nothing for women's bodies and women's rights?
It's interesting because that's exactly what we're called nearly every day. I mean, Focus on the Family just got on the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate list. It's like a schoolyard bully. All they can do is call you names. And we have to remember the same wisdom that our parents told us back then is like, names are just names. They're accusations. They're not an argument. And we get called hateful, we get called bigoted, we get called transphobic. And you know what? You just have to let that roll off your back, because they're calling us those names because our arguments, the cases that we are making for truth, are having a real impact. They are landing a blow, and we need to keep it up, and we need to keep speaking the truth in love and arguing and contending for the truth that God has given us in nature.
That's Glenn Stanton with Focus on the Family, speaking with our Sarah Harnish today on Faith Under Fire. Listen to that feature in its entirety, along with all of our other original Family Life features at Apple Podcast, YouTube, Spotify, and at FamilyLife.org. This is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Are you saving too much? Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. While many struggle to save enough for retirement, others go the opposite direction, saving out of fear rather than faith. A study from the Investments and Wealth Institute found that most retirees don't touch their principal. They live off the interest. That's wise planning in many cases, especially for those who want to leave a legacy. But it's worth asking, are we simply accumulating, or are we stewarding with intentionality? Saving is wise, but Scripture also calls us to give generously. If God has blessed you with more than you need, don't just protect it, put it to work for eternal purposes. Ask the Lord how He might want you to use your resources, not just later, but now, for His kingdom and the good of others. Discover the best Christian financial articles, podcasts, and videos by visiting our website, faithfi.com, or by downloading FaithFi, Faith and Finance from your app store.
Still to come here on the 5 o'clock report, a few fun facts for the 4th.
A declaration by the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress assembled. When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one...
Hi, I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We're watching the passage of a cold front. In its wake lies some beautiful weather for our Independence Day. High pressure that'll be delivering bright skies, low humidity. The heat and humidity will build over the weekend, though, so plans to be somewhere near, on, or in the water, whether it be your lake, your pool, your creek, a swimming hole, favorite spot, you're looking pretty good. The call for tonight, an early shower thunderstorm in some parts of eastern Pennsylvania and east central New York. But that'll pass, and then for tonight, skies will end up clear and moonlit. Low temps comfortable, 50s and low 60s. For your 4th of July, plenty of sunshine, a delight, 70s to near 80. Heating up over the weekend with some sunshine both days, 80s Saturday, nearing just over 90 in spots on Sunday.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. Finally, at 5, as you get ready to mark America's 249th birthday, some Independence Day trivia for you. It first became a national holiday in 1870. The Declaration of Independence was actually approved July 2nd, 1776. John Adams, in fact, wrote to his wife Abigail that July 2nd would be celebrated with pomp, parade, shows, games, sports, guns, bells, bonfires, and illuminations. He felt so strongly about July 2nd, he declined invitations to appear at 4th of July events. But Adams and Thomas Jefferson both died hours apart on July 4th, 1826, the exact 50th anniversary of the Declaration's adoption. And tomorrow, as it happens each year, descendants of the Founding Fathers gather around the Liberty Bell in Philly to tap it 13 times to honor the original 13 colonies. And that's the world we live in for Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.